The functionality we deliver is very business critical. So as I've said, it's a bit of software that tells you what you need to pay staff and what you need to bill customers. So if there's any bugs found in those particular bits of the system, that's going to hurt our customers quite badly and make us look pretty bad in terms of company reputation. So it basically allows you to performance manage to make sure you're meeting your contractual obligations with your customers. And tied into that as well, there's payroll and billing output as well. So the system can be used to pay staff or pay employees for the shifts they've worked, and also bill the customers as well for the services that have been provided. So that's a very high level overview of what the system does. In terms of our regression testing, it wasn't particularly formalized. So we did have some test scripts that we stored within Microsoft Test Manager, but like I say, they weren't particularly formal. The regression testing that was done was quite exploratory. Is that, if I can say it correctly? Rather than regimental. So what I mean by that is, our regression testing, it relied a lot on our testers having good experience with the system, so they knew that when doing a regression test that they should test features A, B, and C. There was nothing really laid out in black and white that meant that someone who was inexperienced with the system could pick up and perform the regression tests as well as someone who was more experienced in the system. Because the testing was quite exploratory and wasn't documented, there wasn't really any accountability either when performing regression testing. So if we did a regression test and a bug did go live, we wouldn't have someone to go back to and say, you failed to test this. Next time you do this regression test, remember to cover this particular aspect of it. We did use an automation tool called Ranorex. I think you're familiar with it. We didn't really get that going on SmartTask. In terms of our regression testing, we would typically perform it over a period of 2 to 3 days, and it would be performed right at the end of a sprint. So there'd be no regression testing done throughout the sprint. It was all done at the end, which was kind of quite high risk. It would, if issues were found, it would mean delays to releases. So potentially customers who we'd made commitments to, we would end up having to let down because we wouldn't be able to release on our planned date. So in terms of what the automation has achieved, so I was saying to Ayush, the main thing it does is it gives us confidence prior to putting a release out. So, I'll say the point again, there's a lot of business critical functionality. So prior to the automation, me personally, I would get very nervous when putting a live release out in case there was something obviously we hadn't found. I feel a lot more relaxed now because I know that a full suite of tests has already been performed prior to us doing a release. In particular around the areas of shift generation, rostering, payroll and billing, roster notifications. It's good to know that all that has already been covered by the automation. And because of that, we're finding issues earlier. So if there are issues, they're coming up during the sprint as opposed to right at the end, so giving us more time to fix them. And it helps us meet our release deadlines as well. Because we know about issues earlier, it means that if we do need to alter our release date, then we do it well in advance as opposed to having to make a last minute change.